Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the Honda X-ADV out for a review ride, and now this is something definitely a little bit different to the other things which I've ridden and reviewed on the channel before. So if you'd like to know what my thoughts are to the bike, jump on the pillion seat and I'll take you all for a ride. The engine is a 745cc parallel twin with a max power output of 43.1 kilowatts at 6,750 RPM. The bike has a 6-speed dual clutch transmission. There's also the option to go into manual mode using the Tiptronic controls on the handlebars. The front suspension is a 41mm upside down fork. On the rear we've got a monoshock damper with ProLink swing arm and 150mm of travel. The front brakes are a 296mm disc with a 4-pot Nissan caliper. There's also twin channel ABS. The rear brakes are a 240mm disc with a single pot Nissan caliper. The exhaust is a 2-in-1 single-sided system. The front wheel is spoked, it's 17-inch and it's running the Bridgestone Batlax Tourer tyres. The rear wheel is again spoked, 15-inch and running the Bridgestone Batlax Tourer tyres. Front headlights and indicators are LED. This bike is running the front fog lights. The rear lights and rear indicators are also LED. On the left hand side we have the flasher, the indicators, the horn, the mode button, the toggle switch for the menus and the set and resume button for the cruise control. On the right hand side we have the lever for the handbrake, we have the start and the kill switch, the gear selector and the cruise control. For the dash we have a 5-inch TFT panel which displays all the usual information. You can also select your rider mode from sport, standard, rain, gravel and user mode. It also shows your gear indicator, fuel level, time, temperature. The TFT menu is where you'll find all your controls for the heated grips and turning on or off your fog lights. You can also sync up your phone and use the Road Sync app, and this will display navigation and messages, phone call information, etc. The front screen is adjustable. It's really easy to operate. Just release the pin at the end, then you can move it up or down to the desired height which you wish to have it set at. To access the under-seat storage, simply press the seat button. The seat will then release, lift it up, and then you have access to the 22 litres of storage. There's also a USB socket in there for charging, and I have fitted a full face helmet in here. This bike is running the optional extra tank bag. I definitely recommend getting one of these. There is so much storage in there. They're really useful and very easy to fit to the bike. There is a small glove box up at the front of the bike. There is both a side and a centre stand fitted to the bike. The seat height is 820mm. The bike has a diamond steel pipe frame and weighs in at 237 kgs. This is a special edition colour scheme. You can also choose from pearl glare white, graphite black and matte deep mud grey. The bike is chain driven. This bike is fitted with the crash bars. Okay then, it's time to give the bike the acceleration test up to the national speed limit like I like to do on all the bikes I test out. So we're in sport mode, so here we go. There we go. So let's give the motorway test a try out then, shall we? And see what the ADV is like on here. £70 mph. It goes to 70 mile an hour quick enough, no issues with that. There's a bit of buffeting around the chin area there, from the screen up front there. But it feels like it will cope with motorway speeds, no issues whatsoever. So next up on the bike, let's take a look at the transmission. Now this bike is fitted with the DCT, so pretty much just an automatic bike for all intents and purposes. Now it's also fitted with a kind of Tiptronic box, so your finger here at the top for going up the gears, and then your thumb down below the bar there used for going down the gears. So in theory, very straightforward and simple. So then let's give it a try. So we're in first gear now. Let's go. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So as expected, really easy and straightforward. So let's try it now. We'll be slow down for these upcoming bends, dropping it down the gears to see what that's like. So here we go, we're in 6, slow it down a bit, drop it down to 5th, down to 4th, and yeah, it goes up and down the box very easily, very smoothly. But I don't know whether it's something I would use personally, but it's on the bike, so we need to test it out and see what it's like. So as you just saw there, the enduro bike shot past, having a lot of fun and making light work of the green lanes. But whilst I've got the HondaX-ADV, I thought it only fair to give it a try out on some light gravel green lanes and just give it a test to see how it does compared to an off-road bike or an adventure bike. And for me, this is an area once again where this bike is compromised. The stock tyres that are on it, this is really a really light gravel green lane, and those tyres were scrabbling for grip quite significantly. I think if you put some chunkier tyres on there, that would definitely help out. But this is never going to be a bike where you're going to decide to go and adventure out onto green lanes and doing major stuff, in my opinion, because it doesn't have all the elements which you want for an enduro bike or an off-road bike. When I go out green laning, I like my bike to be nice and lightweight. A 250 is usually ideal for me. If you drop the bike, you can pick them up easily. Now this being a 750 and it's quite weighty, I wouldn't want to be picking this up many times. I feel that the tyres would also need to be changed the stock tyres which are on it there, the Bridgestone Batlacks. Tourer, for me, I'm not really much cop. This really is like the minimum you could test it on, basically. For me, the DCT, again, is just something which I don't find enjoyable to ride off-road. I would much prefer to have a clutch. I just feel like you're losing so much control of the bike, and with just having to use the throttle and the back brake, you just kind of lose a bit of the enjoyment, in my opinion. So for me, again, the DCT for off-road isn't something I would personally look at having if I was to buy an adventure bike. And if I was to get an adventure bike, I would go for a Honda Africa Twin and a manual one, because I've ridden that bike and that really is a great bike on and off-road. So that reverts again back to this. It's kind of, well, you're buying a compromise for on-road and you're buying a compromise for off-road. So anybody who wants to do serious off-road is definitely not going to buy one. For somebody who wants it for around town or just cruising around the A roads, yeah, you could possibly get away with it. But for me, again, I think I would just spend my money and get an Africa Twin, because that can do both of these things, the on and the off-road element, absolutely perfectly. I've obviously only got the stock settings in the bike. I've not changed anything. I've just come straight off the road onto the green lane, put it in gravel mode and gone with the settings which are in the bike already. I found the suspension to be a little bit too soft. It kind of grounded out, bottomed out quite a few times over not major jumps or major dips or rises, crests in the road. So maybe that's something which would want looking at if you was going to do something a little more challenging. One thing I will say is it has definitely been an experience trying this bike off-road. There's no point having a bike which is said to be an adventure bike and not giving it a try off-road. Like I say, it's only an easy green lane, nothing major, but it was fun, it was enjoyable, but there was a few times when you was thinking it's a little bit too sketchy for it, and with it not being my bike and I've only got my road gear on, I'm definitely not taking any chances on it today. So for me, this is probably as much as I would like to push this bike, and I really wouldn't want to take any more risks or try it on anything more technical than this kind of green lane. One thing is for certain about the Honda X-ADV, it handles really well. As you can see, you can really throw it into a bend and it will grip and hold that line exactly as you would want it to. So then, after 2 weeks of riding the Honda X-ADV, I've had the opportunity to really put it through its paces and find out what it can do and what it can't do. I've ridden the bike in a mix of conditions and locations, but every time I sit down and have a think about this bike, there is one word which comes back to me and sticks in my head, and that word is confused. I really cannot get past this. I can't fathom out where this bike is aimed at. So I think the best thing for me to do is have a chat and let you know the things which I do like about the bike and the things which I'm not keen on about the bike. So first up, on things which I do like about the bike. Now, it is a Honda and you kind of expect a certain level of build quality, and this bike does not disappoint. The build quality, the switch gear, the controls, everything feels solid and well made, and nothing feels like it's been scrimped on or corners have been cut anywhere. So the second thing which I like about the bike is the paintwork. Now this is the special edition, but I think that the blue, white and the red colour scheme on this really pop, and I think it is definitely the pick of all the colour choices for this machine. But then again, it does come at a premium. So next up on the things which I definitely do like about this bike is the storage. A quick press of the button there, the seat pops up and you've got a large container there to store all your goodies, your bits and pieces, and I have fitted a full face helmet in there with no issue whatsoever. Now, I have seen people say you can't fit helmets in there or full face helmets, but mine definitely went in there with ease. But I guess it's probably depends on what your helmet size is, if it's an adventure helmet, if it's a flip up helmet, that kind of thing. So I can't speak for all helmet designs, but the one I'm using today fitted in there with no issue whatsoever. Also in there's a USB socket. Now I found that really useful for charging things up on the go, and I think that's definitely a nice touch. Another thing which I like is the optional extra bag here, which has been fitted by Honda to this bike. Now, you really can fit a surprising amount of stuff in there, and I found it really, really useful. The clear section on the front is good for storing your phone in, and it also waterproofs it, so that's definitely good. It clips on with these little brackets here, these little buckles, so you can take it off and take it with you when you leave the bike. I also found, unlike a tank bag, I found this to be really unintrusive and it didn't get in your way, so that was definitely a plus. And I would highly recommend getting one of those if you were looking at buying a Honda X-ADV. So next up is the seat. Like all Hondas, as I've said previously, I find Hondas make great seats on bikes, and this one definitely falls within that bracket. It's really wide, it's grippy, it's comfortable. You've got a little backrest there just to support you. And I have carried an adult pillion on this bike, and they found that the seat, I commented that the seat was actually really comfortable for them and there was no issues there. Again, it's quite a large pillion seat, so it really should appeal to a wide range of people. You've got the grip rails there on the back for grabbing onto, and you've also got the pillion footrests, which just clip down there, and when you don't need them, they can pop back up out the way. So all in all, the seat is a really good design. Next up is the handling of the bike. Now, even though I didn't get along with this bike, which I'll discuss later, the handling of the bike is actually really, really good. You can throw it into corners, it will hold the line easily, and you can get decent lean angle on this bike. It did have its moments of putting a smile on my face, and when you got a good run of bends and a bit of speed up, it actually felt quite enjoyable to ride. So the handling is surprisingly good on this machine. The brakes on this bike, I can definitely vouch for them. They are excellent. The front brake and the rear brake feel like you've got so much control on them. You can really put a good pull into the levers, and the stopping power, in my opinion, was really, really good and strong. I did actually have to use them on a couple of occasions when the usual car driver decided to change lanes without looking in the mirrors, and they stood up really, really well. Again, even with a pillion on the back, the stopping power of the bike was actually very, very impressive. As for the engine, well, it's a 750cc twin, and I personally thought when it was in sports mode, it performed really well. Overtakes were very easy. The DCT just kicked down and you went past things with ease. It never felt underpowered or felt like you were lacking or wanted more. When you drop it into road mode or eco mode, it did feel noticeable, the difference in power. But I think for around town, short journeys, that kind of thing, it'll be all you need, really. I don't think there'll be an issue with that. I think the bike had more than enough power for what was required of it. So let's have a chat about the things which I didn't like about the bike, or I didn't get along with. Now, again, just like the things I liked about the bike, the things I do not like about the bike are obviously just my opinion. It's me testing the bike out, so I can only say what I like and what I do not like. Other people may disagree. But first up was the foot pegs. Now, these are the optional extra foot pegs, and I personally found that they were in a real superbike riding position. You felt really angled back, your knees felt like they were pushed together there, so your calf was touching your thigh. I found them really far back, and I was constantly moving my foot position from here onto the boards and onto the forward sort of control area, because I didn't find any of them comfortable for a long amount of time. But once you change from the foot position here on the pegs onto the boards, I found that then felt too high. Your knees felt like they were up right against the handlebars. Now I understand that this is probably exaggerated because those foot pegs are low down and far back, so it's kind of a big difference from there to there. But again, I didn't really feel like this was a comfortable riding position for any long period. And then finally, when you wanted to, you could move your feet up to the front here. Now, the way I've got them there is with my ankles tucked in and my toes twisted out. Now, the issue with that is your toes or the ball of your foot has nothing to grip onto and just slides off, which again, you can't control the bike like that. I didn't find that very useful or comfortable. Then if you put your ball of your foot and your heel down, you had this big void underneath your foot, which again, didn't feel comfortable to me. So I didn't find any one of the three positions particularly that great. Definitely not for a long period. Like I say, I had to keep changing them up to try and find a bit of comfort at the time I was riding. Next up is the DCT gearbox. Now, firstly, and to be absolutely clear on this, I'm not criticising the engineering of it. Obviously, it's a great piece of engineering and it does work absolutely fine. But personally, it's not for me. I found that it added nothing to the riding experience. In fact, I would say it took away, in my opinion. In slow moving traffic or slow manoeuvres, the only way I found you could control the bike was by using a lot of rear brake to help modulate the throttle control. Now, by doing that, I'm using my left hand, so I may as well just be using a clutch. And I would find it more controllable and like I was in more control of the bike if I was using a clutch, and I could use the rear brake with my foot like I normally do. So for me, I wouldn't have a DCT gearbox. I would just stick with a manual. Now, I know a lot of people will disagree with that and they will absolutely rave about them. And as I say, it's everybody's personal preference. But for me, it didn't add anything to the riding experience. Another thing which I did find, and it's not a major criticism, is the bottom of the bike is really, really wide. So when you come to a stop and you go to put your foot down, I did on a couple of occasions catch my feet on the edge of like the crash bars or the high raised foot position. And it does also, along with the seat being wide, it obviously makes the distance to get your legs down to the ground slightly larger than what it would be on a more narrow bike. So I did find on a couple of occasions, especially if the road was not level, you had to lean the bike slightly just to get your foot down, get your foot comfortably on the floor and nice and flat so you felt in control. But as I say, it's not a major criticism, it's just more of something which I noticed on the bike. So finally, one thing which really did confuse me was the adventure aspect of this bike. Now, it does have a gravel mode and I took it off road to give it a try out, but for me, any gravel road which this bike can cope with, one of my normal road bikes would do the same. There would be no difference. So for me, this is where it leads me back to being confused about the bike, because anybody who wanted this kind of bike for adventuring, for me, would just look towards a Honda Africa Twin. And personally, that's what I would do. An Africa Twin does everything this bike does, but better. The on-road riding, the off-road riding, the touring, you can put panniers on it, so you've got all the luggage and the storage space. And I just feel that that would be a better option. Where is it aimed at? Who would it suit? Who would be looking to buy one of these? I just can't get my head around which kind of demographic it is aimed at. Now, I know that Honda would say this is one of our best-selling bikes in Europe, and I couldn't argue with that. They've sold thousands and thousands of them. I think it's the second or third best-selling bike in Europe. But for me, Honda has so many great bikes in their lineup, such a big, vast range of motorcycles to choose from, that why would you go for something which is compromised in all areas? It can't do anything particularly good. It may be able to do everything well, but there's, as I say, a range of bikes which can do all these things better. So then, to sum up the Honda X-ADV, For me, I just keep going back to this confused and compromised state of mind about this bike, and it's definitely not a bike for me. Now, I know there's probably somebody out there, and there definitely will be people out there who have bought this bike and will say it's absolutely superb and it does everything they need. And I'm not arguing with that. I can't say it doesn't suit people, but for me, it's definitely not something I would consider. I would just look to the other bikes in the Honda range. I think there's so much choice there anyway, and so many good bikes to pick from, that this just wouldn't be on my radar. It would be great to hear from any Honda X-ADV owners to let me know what these bikes are like to live with on a day-to-day and a year-round basis. Are there any quirks which kick in? Is there something blindingly obvious which I am missing here? It'd be great to hear your thoughts and your comments on the bikes and the ownership of these machines. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, hype, comment and subscribe below. Remember to keep it shiny side up, and I'll see you all in the next one.